Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sybil Amuti.
And don't you just love how I brought in our studio audience today? Those are my friends and family, y'all. They're here to clap it up and celebrate this great girlfriend magic that is happening here on the show. So without further ado, grab something great to drink, grab your pen and paper, and get ready for this week's episode. Enjoy.
Great girlfriends, I am truly, truly excited yet again to have another dynamic woman with me today, Darieth Chisolm, who is a multiple-time Emmy award-winning TV host, former NBC News anchor. She's a TED speaker. She's a transformer, I will say, because Darieth's bio ranges in content and development and awards and stages. And her most recent work, on cyber harassment, with TED, her TED.com talk has been translated into 19 different languages and has been viewed nearly 1.9 million times. And so media has been her space, and her message has been empowerment fully for women and ensuring that we are seen and protected from some of the dangers that exist outside of our space. So Darieth, I want to welcome you today.
Oh, it's such a delight to be here with you and your listeners. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, thank you so much for the work that you do. And just the messaging that I know has been built through the fire. I know that there's been but aren't the best messages built when we've gone through, learned the lesson, and have taken away all the things that we know are the essentials?
Oh, absolutely. That's interesting. You say built through the fire. I don't know that I've ever heard that before, but yeah, that qualifies because that's exactly what it felt like. Burned up and certainly evolving into something entirely different. So,
You know what? I think it's so interesting with Michelle Obama's explanation of becoming. I think, that use of the word becoming, and that it gave us freedom to pursue the evolution and allow the evolution to happen, right? Because we do get to, in this life, become and evolve and show up differently each time in our best version, as best as we can, but still different. And so, life will bring us these opportunities, these invitations to grow, and these invitations to heal and to be powered and to bring other people along. And I think you've had many of those, it's safe to say.
I have. And, it's interesting that you do start off with the use of the word becoming. And certainly the book that our former First Lady published is a testament to what it really means to become in the face of tragedy or adversity. And interestingly enough, it was the question that I asked myself in the midst of what I would consider my darkest moment while I was experiencing, and I'll certainly go into detail about my experience with revenge porn, but it was in that critical stage where I had to make the choice. And I asked myself this question, which was, who do I need to become now? Because the version of me that was mired in silence and depression and shame around having my naked body exposed for the world to see without my consent and with no way of getting it taken down was a version of me as a victim and disempowered and not going anywhere. And so that pivotal question, like, who do I need to become now? Interestingly enough, it's the turn in my documentary. It's also the question that I find myself asking now whenever I'm facing something. And who you get to become on the other side of that is if you allow yourself to experience that alchemistry, if you will, in that process, can be so much lighter and alive and vibrant and ready for the new journey. But it's when we're in the middle of it that we don't see it. And it's where usually most of the challenges, I would think.
And that question is also a permission, that you're giving yourself the right to become something and to open the door to a new chapter, which a lot of people won't do. And so, our theme for 2021 in the Great Girlfriend community is all about showing up for yourself. And that doesn't always mean when you're jumping off the cliff to start a new career and, or you're having a new baby, or you're, entering marriage, or, it doesn't always mean the upswing of things. There's also these moments where you have to show up for yourself and give and ask that big question, right? So that you can protect and armor yourself and bring voice to some of the things that other would have traditionally silenced you. So I do want to get into, the dark hour. And I want to talk a bit about what that was like for you, Darieth. You've already kind of given us an ounce of what happened to you with the revenge porn, but kind of tell us a bit of that story.
Yeah, definitely. And so we certainly talked about what I call the turn, which is where I was able to do so much beyond it. But this started essentially with, and I mean, I can just back it up and give you the day that I received a text message, and I opened the text message up, and there was about a 60-second video of me with a ton of naked photos of me.
Mm,
Lots of photos of my entire naked body and my private parts. I mean, literally just strung together with a lot of very defamatory words. And it came from a former ex boyfriend who I had been living with in Jamaica, who, after seeing the video, realized that he had been taking these photos without my knowledge. And he
mm,
sent me this text message with the threat saying, if you don't return to me in this relationship, this is going out on the internet.
mm,
And it left me, I can't even explain it, like speechless, floored,
mm,
afraid,
mhm,
because there were multiple threats that came along with that. And you stand there and you think like, oh my God, is this really happening to me? And within the weeks following that were other additional messages. It's going out, call me, it's going out. And I thought I could just not pay attention to it. Well, shortly after that comes a text message with a website, a link to a website with now all of this stuff on it.
Oh my God.
And I should frame this conversation with the fact that I've spent 30 years in television, and I've had a very long career as a television news anchor. Obviously spending a great deal of time building that career, along with building my
Mhm.
career as a professional life and business coach. And so to have my credibility and my celebrity threatened in this way was just
Mhm.
unbelievable. And,
Mhm.
I couldn't get him to stop. I couldn't get the pictures or the website shut down. And it was just perhaps one of the most darkest times of my life. That went on for several months. And while I continued to beg him to take the website down, I
Mhm.
couldn't get GoDaddy and Google to take it down either. And
Wow.
you could Google my name and find it.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
so the part that was even more debilitating for me was to get these personal threats from someone who I loved and trusted and was in a relationship with, but that these internet-based companies were doing nothing about it either. And then when I discovered that there are millions of people who also fight this same fight every second, was when it just became clear to me that this is unacceptable. And I didn't even know there was a such thing called revenge porn. Like
Mhm.
it was the a term that I'd never heard of and was completely unfamiliar with. I certainly had heard of cyberbullying before, but so it really threw me into this world of trying to understand the different nuances of having content and material taken down and not having the wherewithal to do it, and that these internet companies literally can and do. And so, it took
Wow.
me several months eventually to have the website shut down. I was essentially able to use what's called a DMCA takedown notice to have it shut down. But by then, the fight had ensued to be a voice for other people. Because
Mm.
by then I realized that if I couldn't get this shut down with what I had considered, some measurable skills,
Mhm. Mhm.
that I can't imagine what other people who might be feeling just as helpless were finding themselves in. So it launched about a 2.5 year court battle here in the United States, as well as in Jamaica, to ultimately not only have the website shut down, but to strengthen what flimsy laws that we have in place around
Mm.
revenge porn. I ultimately staged a march and a rally from the steps of City Hall in Pittsburgh to collect signatures to send to Congress to support a federal bill against revenge porn. And then I also filmed a documentary along the way. I crisscrossed the country interviewing other women who'd also faced this, and ended up producing and directing a 38-minute independent documentary that's gone on to win multiple awards in film festivals. So, it talk about becoming someone else. And none of that was in my background, by the way, or on my agenda.
Right. Well, because that's what I'm thinking. This entire time you're talking, I'm like, okay, but wait, regular life is happening. Like you then have, this other charge is layered on top of the idea that you are a fully working and functioning adult with a career that you are in the middle of, but all of this is happening alongside. And it then becomes a mission that you have to devote time and attention to. A lot of women will quit right there because they don't have the bandwidth, or they feel like they don't have enough fight in them. So I got to know where this fight comes from, because that get up fight, like, oh, hell no, not me, which I love, I want to honor it, because I think, as you probably learned, even traveling the country, you became the champion for so many women who didn't have the strength like you had. So where did you gather the strength?
Well, I didn't have it, and it was several months of me being in silence and not knowing what to do and feeling very helpless. And the fight came from a conversation with my son, who I had to share this with, because the threats were that there were going to be flyers put around his college campus with these photos on. And this now was going to bring him into the middle of this. And at that point, I was not available for that. But I had to tell him. And, my biggest concern was that I did not want my son to be bitter or angry or be in a place where he was seeking some sort of revenge against the man who was doing this to his mother. And yet this beautiful child of mine said to me, "Mom, listen, I'm so sorry this is happening to you, but you are the strongest person that I know. You're going to get through this." And right after he said that, he said these words to me. He said, "And besides, Mom, he messed with the wrong woman."
Ooh, yes, son. That was it. The cape went
And
on.
that was
You're
it.
like, uh-oh.
It was like I grew wings. It was like, and it was just like boom, like it just, like you're right. Like I grew up in Detroit. Like I was like,
oh, and you're from Detroit? Hold on a minute. Like, yeah. He put the cape back on. Oh,
right. The cape, the crown, the S on my chest, all of it. Like I had a lot. I just, like, it was as if the clouds parted and the angels sang, and God was like, it hit me in just that moment. And I said, "You are absolutely right, son." And I, with 100%, so then became, okay, then God, what would you have me do? How would you have me do? What is it that you need me to do? And then that question came up, and then who do I need to become now? Because I didn't know what to do. I was clueless. I didn't know that, even what I heard in my prayers were film a documentary. I've spent 30 years in television, but a television news anchor does not make a film director or producer. And so I was blessed enough that while I made that decision and opened myself up to be led and to be guided, it was as if angels just emerged on my path. And so many people were there to help to guide me and direct me, and producers and the people that I partnered with. And, even as I was traveling the country, we would find students that were in film school that were available to come and film with me. It led me to multiple interviews on the Today Show and Dr. Oz and various media, and then a TED Talk. So like the opening of this occurred because I got out of indecision and into decision about doing something. And I didn't know the hows. I had no idea what the hows were, but I was just available to do something. And they presented themselves like miracles that just continued to form. And I subsequently coined this term for myself, and that is that miracles occur in no particular order. And they were manifesting in my life from previous relations. Like all of a sudden I'd remember someone that I met or something that happened, and it was like, wow, like these pieces started to come together very, very seamless, and I was totally surprised by it. So
But I want to
yeah,
stop for
so
one
when you
second.
ask that question, how,
I want to pause on
I'm
this
sorry.
because you said the hows present themselves, and I think that is so important for us to understand. A lot of us will go through things and we'll feel this trauma and we'll feel weak and hopeless and helpless. And the hows, you saying that reminds me that the provision that we need for whatever that thing is that we're being assigned, the mission, the response, the becoming, the hows will present themselves. And that miracle process is something we have to make ourselves available to. Because
Yeah.
we think that we think our careers have to help us and shape us and do it all. And we think that, our expertise is what will take us places. But oftentimes it's the mission, it's the calling, it's those moments that really, really invite us to show up stronger.
Yeah.
It's the
And Sybil,
moment where your son says you mess with the wrong one. It's
that's
those
the
moments.
wrong woman like that. Yeah, I mean, it's even it is the tagline in the film, ironically, but he did in fact do that, and I'll get to what happened to him in a moment. But what I do want to say, because you brought up the word provision, what I learned in this process, I trusted this in this process. I didn't before that, but I learned something that was very significant, and that is that with divine assignment comes divine provision.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I didn't trust, I didn't know that. I didn't trust
Mm,
that. I mean, I guess that also is what faith is, right? But at the
mhm,
time, because I didn't see it,
mm,
right? Like I didn't see it. And it also helped me to understand that you will see it when you believe it. We want to have it the other way around, but
right.
it's not that, right? So
Yeah.
like that was for me the greatest gift, is that when there is a divine assignment in your life placed upon your life, there is provision. In fact, those two things come hand in hand. That the other side of the coin, you just have to trust that the other side of the coin exists. And so that
Yes.
was for me what was interesting enough. So yeah, yeah.
Wow. What did you learn in your experience, with interviewing and connecting with women and probably, some young women of different ages, backgrounds around the nation who had dealt with revenge porn? What did you learn? What was the universal theme?
That it was almost like we all dated the same guy. The universal thing.
Mm,
Well, I will tell you the characteristics of a person who does this
yes, please.
is someone who presents as a narcissist and sociopath, and the typically the MO is about the same.
Mm,
That was very alarming to me, because as I interviewed these women and they were describing the behavior of their perpetrator, it
mhm.
was as if they were describing the same person who I was in a relationship with. And
Wow.
what their behavior was after they were rejected was
Mhm.
this sense of obsession. And the obsession for them led to, well, if I can't have you, then I'll destroy you. If
Mm,
if you don't do as I say, then I will, inflict something upon you. And in
mhm,
my case, because he couldn't physically put his hands on me,
mhm.
he decided that he would use a different weapon, which was the internet, right? And
Wow.
use these photos and videos that he had been taking without me knowing. So he had already had this set up. And that's what I
Yes.
also realized, is that many of these women had been and many of these women that I interviewed were married. These are women
Wow.
that in their 40s and 50s. I'm in my 50s. So when this happened to me, I mean, you'd think that it is happening to young women, but it's
Mhm.
also happening to married women and
Wow.
women that are in long standing relationships. And when divorce presents itself, or separation, and it's not always men, but for the most part it is. But when that other person can't handle the rejection, it breeds obsession. And the obsession looks like control, manipulation, these different things. And I don't say that simply because I knew it and I interviewed them, but I also interviewed several psychologists and psychiatrists and behavioral experts who also spoke to that. And so that was was pretty alarming. And you don't see it when you're in the relationship, but the
Mhm.
signs definitely present on your way out of the relationship.
I was just about to ask, like, were they able to mask that, that narcissistic side of them in the relationship? So it's
Of
almost
course.
like, yeah, okay, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most people are blindsided by this. Like you can't see this coming.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even when they do see it coming and they try and talk about it, then they get what's called gaslighted, where
Mhm.
all of a sudden it looks like they are the ones. That even happened to me.
Mhm.
Like he pointed the finger at me and had other people assuming that I did this. Like, how is it possible?
Wow.
And clearly you could see that it wasn't, but that is also a very typical behavior of a narcissist or sociopath, is to then do have this gaslighting where, oh no, it's her. She did it. She called it on herself. She's responsible for it, which for women in particular, or people who are in very volatile relationships where maybe they can't get out, or they, and this presents itself certainly in physical, whether someone is experiencing physical, mental, emotional abuse. It's the same pattern, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And it becomes, in many instances, when someone can't get out, a cycle of abuse that continues.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. My mind is blown. I don't know if you can tell. Like I'm completely, I'm completely mind blown because you know there's so many rights that are violated when you take what was intended to be an intimate moment, relationship, or even just a privilege that you shared between with another person, and use it to manipulate and destroy and dismantle who they are. All in the name of control, all in the name of of ego and I feel the violation just hearing you talk about it. And I also I hear and feel how a woman could walk with the shame that she has no need to carry because she was not the perpetrator, she was not the culprit. But so many women or people will even feel weakened by such a scenario. So I want to celebrate the fact that you were even to able to bring voice to this. And also, I'm pretty sure, I feel very confident that even in the interview process, in developing the body of work that you've created, there's a certain amount of liberation and freedom for every single person that was involved in that process. Because sometimes you just need the release of knowing that you were not the only one, that you weren't
Yeah.
stupid, that you didn't you made you made a decision, but that you weren't you didn't have to you don't have to carry the weight of someone else's I don't know, they're just the stench of it, because it truly has a stench.
It
It's like
does.
it's
Yeah, it does. And there is a heavy shame that goes around it that
yeah,
that for most people who have experienced this, because you're concerned about, will people see this? What will they say? Do they
yeah,
think I'm responsible, or that I posed for these pictures?
yeah,
There's so many things that come up. And then, of course, it has the potential to damage reputations. And unfortunately,
absolutely.
we've seen high rates of suicide among victims
Mm,
because they can't get it taken down, and especially with younger people. I mean, it is a form of
mhm,
cyberbullying. So, when we see the startling numbers of kids who take their lives because they've been bullied, this is exactly the same thing, just happening, and more so with women in close relationships, and it being extremely personal because it's the violation of their bodies, or of their photos. So
mhm,
it is. But you said something early on about just the women that I did have the chance to interview and get to know and watch them evolve in this process. I know my evolution was such that, beyond creating the body of work and having the website 50shadesofsilence.com with the resources and the information that other people have, and of course the documentary, also it allowed me to deepen my work as a storyteller. I mean, it's what I spent so many years working with my clients on, and what I do now is to help people use their voice and tell their stories to grow their businesses. I did it obviously to grow a global social justice project. But after I got through all of that, and interestingly enough, about that divine provision, I mean, I self-funded this project, which cost many thousands of dollars to produce and to create. But also came the opportunity for me to deepen my work when I'm working with my clients, and more clients came to me as a result of it who weren't necessarily, for them, they just wanted to figure out, okay, now I'm a coach. How do I find my clients? I wrote a book. How do I find my clients? I'm a school teacher and I created this widget and I want, parents to be able to use it. How do I tell my story? So it just allowed me to work with a deeper range with my clients and with the work that I do that has nothing to do with 50 Shades of Silence, but what I do as a coach to helping people really build the influence and the income that they want from their businesses and their stories. So it all, at the end, I will say this, it happened for a reason, and it happened for multiple reasons. I hope that I have saved some lives. I hope that I have encouraged people to stand up, release the shame, and use their voices. And I hope that I have helped people become aware of a growing epidemic that really could use lawmakers' attention so that we have the policies in place to better protect our victims and punish the perpetrators.
So good. Darieth, what will be your legacy?
Well, I guess it's this. In some way, I see this being the case that the documentary and this body of work, again, continues to spread awareness around it. And that I will say this just really quickly. The signatures that we collected originally were going for a bill that our now Vice President Kamala Harris wrote many years ago, the Enough Act. And at the time that I collected the signatures, she hadn't even announced a run for presidency, let alone becoming vice president. So I hope to one day meet her and to let her know the work that I did and to have those signatures actually become part of a real piece of legislation that is adopted and used from a federal standpoint that will obviously drip down and impact the state laws, the flimsy state laws that exist. So if I have to go to the UN or the White House, I'll be there.
That's right. I love that. So where can everyone keep up with you and continue to spread the awareness about the work that you're doing?
Absolutely. I'm all over social media. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook is where I spend way more time. Darieth Chisolm, and 50 Shades of Silence. That's 50 Shades of Silence is also on social media. My website is simple. It's just Darieth.com, Darieth.com. And the website for 50 Shades of Silence is 50shadesofsilence.com.
Awesome. Darieth, thank you so much for the work that you do. For the mission that you're on, for your commitment to the laws and the flimsy legislation, laws that you've talked about. I love that use of the word flimsy because they are flimsy. And thank you so much for just being committed to helping other women be set free from the stench and the stale pain of all of this. So I want to thank you for that. You have really, really opened my eyes today. And great girlfriends, please do follow Darieth and keep up with all of her work. And if you need resources, she has them available at her website, Darieth.com.
Great girlfriends, did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast, into the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group, The Great Girlfriends. You follow us on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends and on Twitter at @the_greatGFS. Last but not least, we'd like to thank my amazing husband, Kwaku, Sam and Dilly, and all of you for being a part of the global community that makes us so strong. Please remember to share with your friends, keep listening, and keep being a great girlfriend. I'm Sybil Amuti, and I'm out. Peace.